What's good, everybody? Within the last day or so, there was this catalytic moment that took place in Chicago, Evanston, right? Illinois, to be exact, a suburban community, right? And so that event took place, and I feel like if cities and states follow suit around the world, this can change the whole dynamic of the black culture and generate, wealth into, our community and our household and ultimately increase our family's net worth. You know what I'm saying? And so black people, we all know that we were socially engineered into the bottom of the totem poles. That's a given. Collectively we endured slavery, and then post Reconstruction, we had to endure things like Jim Crow credit laws and redlining, right? Things that compelled us to pay higher interest rates than our counterparts, despite having less resources, right? Despite being given less opportunity to really attain funds and generate assets and wealth for our families. Despite getting a shorter end, they were still having us pay higher returns for home ownership. And what that did was it prevented us from maintaining or sustaining uh, a great financial asset. And if you look at history, that's how whites were able to extend that gap, that wealth gap that they got between us. I think the last time I checked, the average net worth in a white home was 171,000, and then the average net worth in a black home was 17,000. Stuff like that didn't happen by accident, and I say that because, we were socially engineered into the bottom of the totem poles. Like, that's a fact. Despite, our counterparts having no regards for that. That's true. And, it's sick, but, we always found a way to endeavor that. And right now, we're still, closing that edge on the gap. All right, so I want to get into this catalytic event that happened in Evanston, Illinois, right? So they approved a $10 million program, which can extend through 10 years, right? And black people are the benefactors of that bill. Those funds are primarily to give reparations to the black culture or the black individuals within that suburban community, because there was one of those suburban communities that prevented black people from maintaining home ownership through those Jim Crow credit laws and the redlining and all these other different things. It was so crazy in those times because a black person's main goal and objective was to get out of the ghetto, right? Place where we were thrown in, drug infested, guns, crime, because poverty equals crime. So we was trying to get away from that. And so in the midst of us trying to get away from that, saving up all of our funds, just grinding, right? When we moved into these suburban areas, white people or, lenders or whatnot, they considered us devaluing the community or the entire area. So in a suburban community, if one black individual moved into that community, they looked at us as a stain, right? We were similar to a stain on a record, because what happened was the value of the houses that surrounded us would decrease because our value would decrease. And so we'll be making upside down payments because the house that we own, it wasn't valued as much, and we were paying more interest rates. And so we were positioned in more debt than our counterparts. So how can we maintain or gain wealth that way when we're in debt and we're not able to sustain home ownership, right? So this is where these reparations stem from, right? And so approximately 16% of Evanston, Illinois is black. And I think from a census standpoint, I think that's about 73,000 black people that stayed in that community, right? So they have intentions of giving those individuals reparations. But the key is they would have to been homeowners from 1919 to 1969. That was around the time when, this suburban community was treating black folks wrong. So while the whole objective of a black person was to get out of the ghetto and get out of the slums and get out of transgression filled environments to better their family, right, and to sustain a happy home, they kicked us out, or they set barriers in place to ensure that we didn't be a part of their community, right? And so we had to deal with these Jim Crow credit laws. We had to deal with redlining. And these things prevented us from attaining wealth. So not only am I ecstatic about this happening in Chicago, I hope that this spark, right, or ignite some empathy for our community, our culture, and that states and cities around the world start to compensate black people for what we've had to endure. I think it's absurd that being black automatically correlated you to paying higher interest rates. And we're individuals that just endured slavery. We just endured slavery, right? Maybe I think it's like 30 or 40 years before they started, the New Deal and post-Reconstruction and these Jim Crow credit laws and stuff like that. So we were already behind the curve. And these individuals ensured that we stayed behind the curve with these laws that they put in place. And so I feel like it's only right, man, that we receive reparations for what we had to endure.